Welcome to Bloomerang Academy. Thank you everyone so much for joining us today. My name is Diana. I am the Product Engagement Manager here at Bloomerang. I will be co-presenting with our friend Erica Wasdorp today, who is the monthly giving queen. Every time we get a question about monthly giving, we always like, what would Erica do or what would Erica say? We have to defer to Erica. And she literally wrote the book on it and lots of other books too. You may have already read it. She has a book called Monthly Giving the Sleeping Giant. Hi, Erica. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Diana. Thank you so much. I'm still humbled whenever somebody says that, like the monthly donor queen, but obviously, like I absolutely love monthly giving, and we're going to talk about loving your recurring donors today. And this is a little bit different webinar than maybe you've seen from me, if you've seen me before. But I'm really excited to co-present with Bloomerang to go a little bit more in the weeds as to what you can specifically do with Bloomerang for your recurring donors. So let's look at the agenda here. So we're going to look at actually creating a filter so that you can isolate those recurring donors and can really make them feel special. You can do something special because that's the key here as well, right? We're going to look at some reports, and because again, that's like really important to kind of share with other people that don't understand the value of monthly giving yet. And then we're going to actually look at like creating a tax letter, because that's something that obviously we don't need that today, but you're going to need it in January. And then we also look at how can you track some of the cultivation, the stewardship activities that you are going to do for your recurring donors. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So Diane and I will go back and forth every now and then. All right, so let's start with, and I'd love to have you use too in there, because I heard a lot of people already have a monthly giving program. So if you have one, what do you have a name for it? And if so, can you just like enter that name in the chat, and then I'll ask Diana in a couple of seconds to call out a couple of options. So as part of the recognition, as part of the loving your recurring donors, it is important to create a name. Now, if you're just starting out and you say, oh, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy with that, don't worry about it. You can always introduce it later. But it's just like if you have one, it just helps you with your recognition. But I certainly don't want you holding up the start of really starting to promote it. Okay, so we're going to look at creating a name. What are some of the ways that you can make your monthly donors feel special? One thing I want to recommend, especially if you're just starting out, is keep it simple. As you're coming up with ideas as how you can make your donors feel special, don't paint yourself in a corner, but just say, look, okay, well, what is it that we can guarantee to offer our monthly donors? You can say, once you become a monthly donor, you're going to continue to receive updates from us. You don't have to specify that it's quarterly or bi-weekly or weekly or monthly or once a year, right? Just say you're going to continue to receive updates from us, right? That's the key. But I much rather have you spend a little bit of time on making it as personal as possible. And you can pull in some volunteers and some board members when you do that. It's always great to do something surprising. And you can do that throughout the whole donor journey, right? It doesn't matter if they are new recurring donors or if they've already been giving monthly for a year. And this one is very important also. It is totally okay to repurpose something. If you did a nice thank you video like 2 months ago on social media, by golly, put it in an email, right, to this particular group, right? So it's people are not going to say, oh, well, yeah, I remember specifically that you sent me this same video on social media 2 months ago, right? So it's totally fine to repurpose. If you have a major gifts department, maybe you can kind of borrow a couple of things that they're doing in your major gifts department, right? So keep it simple and look at some of the things that you may already have in your organization. So Diana, what are some of the names that some people have?
We have a lot of great names here. Ranch
Yeah.
Hands, Hope 365, the Coalition, Champions of Citizenship, Champions Club, Heroes for Hope, Monthly Giving Club, Faithful Friends, Partner for Life, Impact Circle, and so many more great names.
Awesome, awesome. So thanks so much. That's wonderful. Okay, so and the key with this is like don't spend too much time, and you certainly don't need to spend a lot of money on it. Here are just a couple of more examples: Trailblazers, Daisy Club, Gems, Give Every Month, right? Hope Builders, Innkeepers, Champions, and Combinations. Just a couple of words that I prefer that you not use when it comes to monthly giving. Recurring is like legacy, society, or amounts in names like the $10 a month club, because at some point you're going to want to upgrade those monthly donors. So if you have an amount associated with it, then it's going to be much harder. So that 360 is like obviously a little bit different, right? That's sort of like the roundabout way of looking at the big picture. So, but just those are just a couple of recommendations. But sit down, brainstorm with a couple of people in a room, write it down, and say what fits our mission, and then choose the top three, go outside, go talk to a couple of people. What do you think? I mean, I even have some organizations that have sent out a little survey to to their donors and say, hey, we're looking to start a loyal club. Can you choose the top, can you help us choose which one you like? So just a couple of ways to come up with a name, and then you want to move on, right? And why do we want to have this special group, this special community? Because again, it helps you in the cultivation. It also helps you in selecting, and making them feel very, very special. And then it helps you in your ongoing communication. So Diana, you're going to look at how can you then identify those people, right? How do you create that?
Yes, wonderful. So in Bloomerang, as soon as somebody creates a recurring donation or starts a recurring donation with your organization, you're going to see an entry on their timeline that says recurring donations scheduled. Now, this isn't the payment yet. This is just the donor telling you that they would like to start recurring donations with you. You might not even have gotten the first payment yet. If you do, you can include this in a filter. So if you just use the type as recurring donation schedule, that will automatically pick them up. So if you use that filter for type as recurring donation schedule, that will automatically pick up anyone who has a recurring donation. And there's a good point here. You also need to filter by active. That's a good point, because you might also get people whose recurring donation has already ended. So if you're looking for anyone who currently has an ongoing recurring donation, you can use that. And you can use this filter in a report, in a letter, in an email. The great thing about this too is that if you're using it in a report, you can even schedule this report to go to anyone's inbox. So if you have someone on your staff who directly manages your recurring giving program, then you can, all the new recurring donations coming in, you can automatically schedule that to go to their inbox, so they know right away, and you can give that donor a little extra love.
That's great. Yeah, excellent. So, because again, that's what we're trying to do, right? We want them to feel special, but we also want to set expectations. So, as they join, that's the time that you tell them what they can expect, right? So that's when you tell them that they're now part of this special community with this name, and that they're going to start receive, like in this case, they say stories of neighbors you're helping. Right, you're going to get news about our progress, right? And then like you're telling them what they can expect. You're going to tell them that they're going to receive a tax letter come January, so that they're not going to expect monthly thank you letters, right? Because people ask me that all the time. Should I send monthly thank you letters? No, you're better off doing something else that is a little bit warmer and fuzzier than a standard thank you letter that says thank you for your $10 a month or your $25 a month. But in that setting the expectations, it's really important, and Diana mentioned it, is like that you have somebody in your organization that you task. It's probably going to be you or somebody close to you that you work with in close relationship that is going to be the key point person whenever it comes to monthly giving questions. And believe me, these monthly donors, they care about your organization. They are going to have questions, not just about their gift, but about some of the things that you are doing. So having a phone number, having an email address, having a contact person is really critical for them. So think about like who's going to be in charge of this monthly giving program, who's going to field the questions if they come. And as part of this, when you join, you also want to make sure that you have a special thank you landing page created. And Diane is going to tell us how to do that.
Yes. So if you're creating your online donation forms in Bloomerang, you'll know that the online donation forms have the option to be recurring. So if you create your online donation form in Bloomerang, a donor can go to that form, they can create their recurring donation from there or start their recurring donation from there. And once they submit that donation, the landing page is what they see on screen immediately after giving you that donation, immediately after clicking that submit or process or donate button. And you want to take them to somewhere special where it's a little bit more customized rather than just your generic thank you for your donation. And it ends there. So, what you can do in Boomerang is when you're creating your form, once you have that landing page created, um, on step 2 of creating your form, you can click redirect to URL and just put in that URL there for your landing page. So right after that donor donates, they get taken directly to that landing page. And you can put whatever you want on that landing page. All you need to do is put the URL into Bloomerang.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. So here's just one example of, I call it an autoresponder, auto landing page when they first sign up. Thank you for becoming a monthly donor. Thank you for being part of this community. We're honored. And then you're again telling them that they're going to receive like a special thank you letter in the mail. I always recommend, no matter how they came on board, whether it was by calling in, whether it was like online, whether it was actually like writing in a note on the reply form, that you are sending them a hard copy thank you letter. They're going to keep that for their records. So again, you can, as Diana mentioned, you can make this as custom as possible. And then the next step is,
Absolutely. Of course, you want, after they make that donation, you want to send them a welcome email as well, as to welcome them into your champion of or heroes for heroes of whatever your um, recurring giving program's name is. And you can set this up in Bloomerang, and we highly suggest using merge fields to personalize your email instead of just a generic welcome. Again, you want to make sure the donor feels the love and the donor feels special, and you can use merge fields to personalize that. Some fields that we recommend using in Bloomerang is you can use the different salutation fields. If you're a little bit more informal, you can say dear informal name or dear formal name, depending on how you want that to sound. But you can also use merge fields to pull in their gift details. So once they've started their recurring donation, you can put in their schedule frequency. So it can say something like, thank you for joining as a champion of youth with your monthly donation of, let's say, $50. And you can put that in. And once you put those merge fields in, it's automatically going to populate based on that constituent. So you don't need to change the email every time. And it's also nice if you're not familiar with the merge fields yet, just go in there and see under the recurring donations, just see what different fields you can insert. You can use it as a reminder. You can put your first installment date and things like that. Um, and if you need help with any of those things, of course, our support team can help you personalize your email.
great. And this is like after you populate those merge fields, and this is what the full email will could look like, right? Again, thank you for your champion for youth, blah, 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 blah. So again, you have that phone number there, you have a contact, you have a special email address in there. And this particular organization even put like a little excerpt in there. So there's lots and lots of things you can do with that thank you, that welcome email message. To make the donor feel really, really special. And again, it's a matter of confirming that they made the right choice, right? And that they are giving monthly to your organization. And that confirms that, like, oh yeah, it's like, yes, that's actually what I meant to do. And and then because you created that special group, right? You can do so much with um, a lot of things that you probably already have or that are coming your way. You can, say you have a client who writes you a really nice note about the difference you've made. You can literally take a picture of that and then pop it into an email down the road. So you have that special group. So you're saying, okay, what can I plan? What can I schedule? What am I doing? Where that could fit. And again, there's so many opportunities. You can have your e-newsletter, you can have special emails. I mean, I'm a friend of Heifer and they send me a special story every month instead of sending a thank you email with my amount, right? So again, they make me feel special without rubbing it in or without making me feel like, oh yeah, that's a bad thing. I'm paying monthly, right? So you really want to make them feel good. And you see here, it looks really, really personal. There's a picture. Again, you can do video in there, whatever you have available. So try to customize it and map it out. And as part of the handouts for today, you're going to actually get like a special recognition and cultivation journey planner. So that way you can map on saying, well, these are the things I am going to do the first year for my new monthly donors. So you're going to get some handouts. You're also getting a sample thank you letter as well that you could customize for your organization. So just kind of take a look at what you have and see how you can make that special. Because remember, this could literally be the same thing. You could use this for your regular donors, and then with a tiny edit, you can use this for your monthly donors as well. I mentioned earlier, you really want to send a hard copy thank you letter. Again, make it as warm and fuzzy as possible. I put in a sample as part of the handouts. And again, you can customize that and you can also get that out of Bloomerang. And then some postcards work, handwritten notes, tie in things that you might already have. So just whatever you have available, keep it simple. And and then have some ongoing recognition using that name. And to be honest, I mean, like I've been a supporter of ASPCA for a long time, and all of a sudden they rebranded. They came up with this ASPCA Guardian. So this all of a sudden is now starting to come into my email box. And that's totally okay. So in other words, if you have a program that you started a year ago, it's okay to all of a sudden start sending them things to make them feel special using the name. So again, it's all about like, oh, okay, yes, I give monthly, but it really makes a difference. The other piece is, and again, it's like everything we do, obviously, as fundraisers is all about like keeping the donors, right? And getting a monthly donor is a great way to improve your donor retention rate. But it does start with how you welcome them, setting the expectations, and then how you're keeping them engaged. So that part of cultivation that really improves the retention. And we're going to talk about retention in the next session, but that's where it starts, right? So have a recognition and cultivation journey planner that you map out, set those expectations, make sure that the donor knows who they have to contact for questions, and then keep confirming that the donor knows how their gifts are making a difference. So it's all about the donor to stay motivated and moved, right, by how they help you and how they help the clients, the patients, the animals, whomever you're serving. That's the key.
Of course, you want to be able to track cultivation as well, and you can create and schedule reports in Bloomerang. We actually have a report template that you can start with called New Donors, and I like modifying that report because it already has some pre-filled filters and columns that you can use. And the only thing that I did differently here is you, instead of just filtering for all new donations, filtering specifically for new recurring donations that have just started. So you can also change the date filters there. So the template that we have is looking at new donors or new donations in the last 90 days. You can adjust that to whatever date range you would like. If you would like to be notified sooner, you can get that at 30 days, 15 days. That's up to you. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you can schedule that report to go to anyone's inbox. I really love this because you might have board members, for example, that you may want to have them give a call to someone. They don't necessarily log into Bloomerang every day, but if they get the report in their email or in their inbox, then it's just a quick reminder for them to quickly make that call and again give that donor some love. You can also create one report that I like doing as well is you can compare constituents with recurring gifts and their interactions. So for example, you can start here with a constituent report, filter for active and overdue recurring donations, and you can add columns for the number of payments that they've had, and the number of interactions. So you can see here in my sample report here, for example, we have one donor who has one recurring donation payment. So maybe it's not as surprising that I don't have any new interactions with them yet, but you'll kind of be able to track that you want to keep that relationship going. So you'll be able to see if you are keeping those touch points up. And you can also customize what type of interactions you're taking a look at. So if you're specifically taking a look at, if you want to touch base by channel, by mail, by email, or by phone, you can take a look at that. Or what kind of touch points, if it's an acknowledgement or for impact cultivation, you can customize the report as well. So you can see how you're doing with that, keeping that relationship going. And after that, it doesn't end there. Once you've created your report, you can always create tasks in Bloomerang as well. You can create them for yourself and you can create them for somebody else. Now, as soon as you assign a task to yourself or to someone else, don't worry about that task falling by the wayside. They will get a notification that a task has been assigned to them, and the email is going to include the details that you put in the task, as well as the contact information of that constituent. Let's say you assign them a task to call that donor, send an email to that donor. Of course, we're going to include that contact information as well. The beauty of this too is that when the task is complete, that gets converted, or you can convert that into an interaction, so you're always keeping track of all those touch points. Going back to the report that we showed earlier, where you're comparing the number of payments that they've had to the number of interactions that they had, once you start creating those tasks and you convert those to interactions, you'll see those numbers populate here. And as a bonus, if you are using our iOS app, we also have push notifications. So if you have any tasks, you'll get those push notifications on your phone. Or I love that it's such easy access to your donor database. So let's say I get a notification that I have a task to call a new recurring donor, I can just look them up on my phone. I can just tap on their phone number from there and make the call right there. And it's automatically going to prompt you to enter that interaction for that phone call. So we want to make it easier for you to keep those relationships going and stay on top of your tasks.
I love that. I absolutely love this. This is so great because I mean, like we all get busy, right? So that's like, oh yeah, did I send them? Did I ask them to make that phone call? Okay, so I really think that's great that you can make this automatic. That's fantastic. So yeah, so I mentioned earlier, like you don't need to send a monthly thank you letter, right? And you can make sure that you don't have to send a monthly thank you receipt either. Instead, you're telling them that they're going to get a tax letter in January, and then you can use that e-newsletter. You can use those special emails. You may use an impact report, stories, videos, testimonials, all great, right? So that's fantastic. So, and all of those are interactions. So if you look back at a recurring donor, you can see all of the things that they receive, and you can see, oh yeah, the tax letter was sent. So it's a great reminder to see what's happening.
And Erica mentioned earlier, typically you're not sending them a monthly thank you, but what you will want to send is a tax report. And I know we're a little past season, but this is something we all have to do every year. There are a couple of things we recommend for this. You can always create a report in Bloomerang. Sometimes a lot of our customers like to start out with a report so they can see that full list. And then the good thing about that is you can always reference that report in a letter or an email. Let's say you don't have a mailing address for one of your constituents, you can send them an email or vice versa. And again, you can use merge fields to personalize that letter or email. And once you use those merge fields, you only need to run the batch once, or however you want to personalize that. But you can run a batch of letters all in one go. And then if you need to, you can also personalize individual letters as needed. Once that letter is run, it's going to create an interaction on their timeline, and it's going to have their individual letter, not separate from the batch. So if you need to tweak a couple of letters here and there, you can personalize that letter in Bloomerang itself. And the nice thing is Bloomerang saves those changes, because I know sometimes if you run them in Word, it's what's stored in Bloomerang is not exactly what the customer or what the donor got. But since you're making those edits in Bloomerang, we keep a record of all of that, and you can always refer back to it.
That's great. Yeah. So, and again, this is then what a tax letter could look like. So you run the batch of letters, and then you can personalize, a message on the letter, right? So again, this is like really a great way to again tell the donor about the impact that they're making. And one thing is like typically in a tax letter, you would list all of the gifts, so not just the monthly donations, right? And this will pull in all of their gifts. So that's really crucial. One exception is if you have donors who make a donor advised fund gift, that's a gift that you should not include because that's not that doesn't follow the same tax deductibility rules. So yeah, so here's the tax letter, and again, you're going to get that handout as well. All right, so the next thing is, sometimes, I mean, again, I'm totally committed to monthly giving. I mean, I've been doing this for, more than 28 years. So I absolutely love it, and I see the tremendous power. And if nothing else, if COVID has taught us anything, it's the importance of having monthly donors, and it's also showing how donors want to help, and they can do that with an amount that is comfortable for them, right? Again, but donors are so, I mean, if especially last year, donors came to us, donors wanted to help, donors started monthly gifts, donor upgraded monthly gifts, right? So, but there's still a couple of skeptics out there, right, about this. Like, what's this monthly giving? Oh, those are just like tiny, tiny donors, right? So that's why it's really, really important, to celebrate little wins. Like I was talking to an organization today, and they started with 15 monthly donors, and after just a couple of weeks, we just cut to the 30. right? So they've already doubled their monthly donors, right? So it's really great to create the little wins, but you need some reports of saying, okay, what are the trends? How are we doing on these monthly gifts? So that's where, again, there's a great report in Bloomerang for that.
Absolutely. We love our reports because I always say that, it's all well and good to put the data in the database, but how are you making sense of that data that's in your database? You're running reports, of course. Um, so those who have attended Bloomerang Academy before know I love talking about our reporting. One of the reports I really love as well is, of course, reporting on your monthly donors. And you can report on those that have active and overdue schedules. What's the difference here, right? So you have the recurring schedules in Bloomerang could have different statuses. Active means it's still ongoing and they haven't missed a payment. If it's overdue, they have missed a payment, and of course we want to see if they have any payments that are overdue. And then if it's closed or finished, then it's run its course, and maybe they have that's an old recurring donation and they've upgraded and they're now on a new one. But for that one, we're taking a look at the active and overdue schedule. So you just want to filter for type is recurring donation schedule or recurring donation payments. I like seeing both so I can see the schedule along with their payments. And then you want to filter for schedule status is active or overdue. Some columns that I recommend adding for this one are amount, frequency. I like being able to see if that's monthly, quarterly, yearly. Amount paid. So you can see, for example, they're a $50, $25, $100, whatever amount it is per month donor. And in total, this is what already they have given you, or these are all the total of the payments that have come in. You can even take a look at, for example, when is their next installment dates that's coming up. So however you want to use this report, you can take a look at all of those columns and add more if you need to. And I also like being able to group by status. And what that means is it's going to lump together. These are all the people whose recurring donation is active. These are all the people who's overdue. And again, if you're thinking about, am I scheduling this report to go to someone's inbox, I can just tell them right away, hey, Blossom or whoever it is, can you follow up with the people who have overdue schedules? Or what are we doing differently from those who are active versus those who are overdue? So I like being able to see that in reports so we know exactly what our next steps are and what we're going to do for that donor. I have a sample here and I wanted to highlight. These are some of the schedules, or sorry, these are some of the filters that I mentioned earlier, and that's what it looks like. And you can see here, I've grouped it. I have 14 that's overdue in my pretend database, so I have some work to do. But you can see here that I'm also scheduling it to go monthly. So it depends what your process is. Maybe you're sending reminders weekly or monthly. However you want to do that, you can pick the schedule as well.
Great. Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot more about those
Yeah.
little retention piece. So, but again, like it's so great that you have a report that shows you, like, look, how much are these active recurring donors worth, right? And then again, like, what's at risk here, right? If I don't do something, I might lose that amount of money, right? So I think that's really, really powerful to see that report. But share the information that you're pulling from the report and say, hey, we've got 50 new monthly donors and they're worth X, right? So, and then annualize the revenue, like, right. I mean, I always like take that, add that into the mix. Like, I mean, some organizations are even like taking the 2-year value of monthly donors. Some are taking the 5-year value, but nothing else. I always recommend you annualize it. So as part of this session on loving your recurring donors is start by creating your recurring donor filter, then create your recognition and cultivation planner. Map it out. Just write it down. What are you planning to do? Keep it simple, but definitely make sure that you have the basics, the landing page, the welcome email, the thank you letter, the tax letter, those 4 items that you have those absolutely ready. And then look at what are you doing with your e-news, your emails? How can you customize that? by simply saying, thank you so much for your ongoing monthly support. Let me tell you a story about Blossom, right? So create that recognition and cultivation planner, create your thank you templates, create that tax letter and your tax email, and then start creating some monthly reports. So you have a little bit of work to do, but it's all for the good because again, these recurring donors are so tremendously powerful. And you're going to get these resources, the links, the recognition and cultivation journey planner that we put together with the sample tax letter and the sample thank you letter. Um, so, and I know we wanted to do a little raffle. So Diane, and we're going to have one for each session. So just so you know, right? So you have multiple chances. So
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. So if you are here today, we're just when everyone registered, well, everyone who's here will assign a random number and pick that out. And you'll get a chance to win a copy of Erica's book, Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant. Um, and if you would like to win more, um, we'll have a different raffle for each of the classes that we have. So don't worry if you don't win it this time. And we'll also link where you can get a copy of the book in case you don't win the raffle. But thank you so much, Erica, and
Welcome.
thank you, everyone. I know we have a lot of great questions here.
Great.
I'm eager to get
Good.
them answered. Um, so Hillary asks, do you treat quarterly donors or recurring annual donors the same as monthly donors? Do you consider them part of your monthly giving group?
Yeah, I would consider them part of your monthly giving group, and I would treat them pretty similar. You may just have to say thanks to your quarterly donations, but other than that, yeah, you want to make them feel special. So
Wonderful. We have a follow-up question. We have a schedule where we send a handwritten note after 3 months and a thank
great.
you call at 6 months after the first gift. Is this too much?
No, I mean, you can't thank monthly donors enough. So, absolutely. I mean, and I think that thank you call after 6 months is like the donor is like used to giving monthly. So it's a great opportunity again to say, look, how do you like it? Why are you giving monthly? Have a conversation, get a testimonial that you can then use in your marketing, your promotion on your website, right? So you can put it in your e-newsletter. Here's why, obviously to those people that haven't given monthly yet, right? You can put it in your print newsletter if you have that. So yes, great tools. Absolutely.
That's wonderful. And especially we've found Bloomerang is a big proponent of thank you calls, and we've found that those are kind of the best calls to get as a donor, right? If someone's calling, even if it's just to say thank you, what a nice phone call to get. And we get this question a lot too of like, is voicemail okay? Absolutely.
Voicemails go totally fine. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Um, we have questions here in the chat, and I see participants are answering each other as well. Um, how do you come up with a goal? What's a good goal to start off if you're just starting off with a monthly recurring giving program? We see, for example, 10% of budget. Um, what's
Yeah, so I usually like if you look at the fact that right now, on average, organizations that have been active for a while, they're seeing about 15% of their donors becoming recurring donors. And it's typically 0 to 12 month donors. So if you have, obviously it depends on how many donors you have, right? But so figure if take a look at where are you at right now, and then maybe you start with like, what if you could get 2% of your donors to give monthly? Start with a reliable goal, right? So what if you get to 5% and then get to 10% and 15%? So that's right now sort of the industry average is like 15% of donors are giving monthly. But it all depends, right? If you have 5,000 email names, again, what if you get like 1% of those 5,000 to become monthly donors?
Larissa asks, what time frame should they receive their welcome email?
The welcome email should go that day or the next day. Yeah, it depends a little bit. You
Yeah,
don't want it all on top of each other, but
yeah, we've found there's some research that Bloomerang has done that if you get out that thank you within 48 hours, that there it's takes donors sooner to get to their next gift, and their next gift is likely to be higher. So you want to get that thank you out as soon as possible. How are you getting people to sign up as a monthly donor? How do you promote your monthly giving program?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking obviously about today's session is about loving, right? So I think there was a session last week about promoting the recurring gift, but the reality is like right now you have your emails, so start there, and it can be as simple as adding a button. Have a button that says donate now. Have another button that says gift monthly. And, I've seen great results. I mean, I was looking at something from a huge organization, World Vision, and they have two buttons, right? So it's like definitely, and why are they doing that? Because it works, right? So what do you get to lose by adding a second button every time you send an email to your donors? And just like it, like monthly giving is not like, it's not something that you say, oh, I'm doing it in February and then I'm not doing anything the rest of the year. It's sort of the constant planting of the seeds that you look at. The one thing that you do want to be careful about is that you don't want to promote it to the higher end donors, right? So it's if you have a conversation with a major donor and the major donor says, yes, I would love to do more. I can't write, the $5,000 checks, but they might be willing to give you $500 a month. Great, you can have that conversation, but that's more of a personal negotiation, if you will. But typically, monthly donors are smaller donors, so they're the bulk, probably the bulk of your donors right now. So, and they respond by email. Obviously digital advertising as you grow, but and you can also put it as a tick box on your appeal reply form. So again, small things that can make a huge difference.
Great point. It's interesting you bring up like typically monthly donors are smaller amounts. We have a question here. John asks, what happens if you get a gut feeling that the monthly donation may be too much for the donor and they will not be able to sustain the gift? This just happened recently when the donor was giving $100 a month but dropped after 7 months.
Right. So that's a great, so like typically you can contact the donor and find out why they stopped. And then they say, well, okay, it was too much. Again, a lot of times donors, the first reaction is that they say it was financial. And then you can say, well, did you know that you could absolutely go for a lower amount? Would $10 a month be more comfortable or $20 a month be more comfortable, right? So if you get the donor on the line, you can have a conversation with them. Um, the other thing is the donor might say, look, I don't know what's happening. Obviously, we're in this COVID timeframe, right? So I don't know what's happening, but maybe they want to go on a pause, right? So you can set them up for contacting them in 6 months or a year and say, would that be more convenient for you? And this is actually an approach that a lot of organizations took right as COVID started happening, that March, April timeframe. Those existing monthly donors, if they call to cancel because they were concerned that they couldn't sustain it, they had like a save script in hand, and they were, like negotiating with the donor and say, okay, can you go for a smaller amount? And a lot of times donors said, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Of course, yes, I would be more comfortable with $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever the amount is, right? So you can absolutely consider offering that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, We have a question here in the chat that I would also like to ask everyone if you have any ideas. How do you show your donors some love? What are some ideas that you've tried that have been successful to show your donors some love?
great
And
question. Yeah.
we have a question if you have ideas, please share in the chat. But we also have a question here from Emily, who said, some of our board members have brought up the idea of providing physical goods, a bottle of wine, for example, for higher end monthly donors. What are your thoughts on showing them love with items versus spending the donation on supporting programs?
Yeah, it's always a question like do I do a Chotsky? Do I do something right? So if your donors are very mission focused, they really don't need a Chotsky. They don't need something, so you're better off to say, well, how would you like to get more involved? And it might be a virtual tour of your organization. It might be access to the executive director. It might be access to program staff and saying, what are you doing with the animals? So, and especially in this day and age with the whole virtual, you can do a virtual tour. You can have a town hall. You can have a conference call with your executive director a couple of times a year. So anything that can tie your donor to your organization and to your mission, to makes them feel part of it, that's really, really powerful. I mean, you might be able to take a video and show somebody who's in the field, right? Um, so I mean, if the board member meets with the donor and says, I would like to give you this as a thank you, of course, but you certainly don't want the donor to feel uncomfortable about like an expensive, $50 bottle of wine or whatever, right? So I think that's just like donors want the money to go to the mission and to make a difference. So
That's nice. We're also getting a couple of great suggestions here from everyone else, like even just a little keychain with the monthly giving name on it. I
that's
like
okay.
I
Yeah, a
yeah
pin. Yeah.
I like that because it reinforces that I'm part of this special giving group. Um,
Stickers,
yeah,
things that are kind of like people know it doesn't cost a lot of
yeah.
money. So, and again, you may already have it. So,
Some also said Valentines are really
yeah. Oh,
nice.
yeah. Great.
Of course, offered to do behind the scene tours or just personalized videos just from staff or
Yep.
from the beneficiaries of your
Those are
program.
all great. Yeah. Easter cards, birthday cards. If you can get the
Yes,
donor's birthday or birthday, fabulous. Yeah.
yes. Good point as well. Stickers or window clings are easy to mail.
Great.
Yes, definitely. And Dominique asks, what kind of information would you suggest be included in an impact report for an organization that has multiple programs?
Well, monthly donors are typically unrestricted donors, right? So they're not supporting a specific program. Now, once they are monthly donors, you can ask them to support a special program, in a specific way. That's possible. So as an extra gift, but monthly giving is usually unrestricted. So if you have an impact report, you can talk about all the programs, right? So that's totally fine. And again, you don't necessarily just need to create an impact report just for monthly donors. You're probably going to create that for your major donors as well. So absolutely share that. But you may want to have multiple impact reports. You might have an impact report that's just focusing on this program. You might have one, in the next month that's focusing on another program. So it certainly doesn't have to be very expensive. So just keep it simple and again, do what you can, right?
Absolutely. We have a question here from Spencer. We are working on a plan to have board members call all donations of a certain amount for the previous quarter. So let's say donations made in Q1, they're going to get a call, thank you call again in April, to get better engagement with donors and board members. Should monthly givers be included in this type of thing, or would that be too much?
No, I think it's totally fine. Absolutely include them. Yep, yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I mean, especially who wouldn't want to receive a thank you call?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. This might be getting ahead of ourselves, but we're getting a lot of questions, Erica, on how do we deal with recurring donors who give by check?
Oh, okay. Um, In what way? Like, how do we thank them, or what do we? So it's like a check statement program. So we have to send them monthly reminders, or it's just like monthly donors say we want to continue to send checks. Because again, here's the thing: you can rack it. So I work with a couple of organizations that have like a check statement program, if you will. So their donors, they continue to send checks, and this organization actually sends them reminders so that they know it's part of that monthly giving program. If you just get donors who say, look, I just want to send you a check, and but I don't want to do it by credit card or by electronic funds transfer, then you can still recognize them as a monthly donor, but you just need to know that they're coming in by check. So you just have to, I don't know exactly how that report will show that, but yeah, absolutely. And you can even like workplace giving donors, you can recognize them as monthly donors as part of this special community, but it's technically a different system, the way they pay, right? But yeah, recognition is always great. So
I'm getting some clarification on that. It
okay.
looks like they might periodically send a check, but they're not technically
Oh,
monthly
okay. Yeah.
donors.
So they're really more like just appeal donors. But again, if say if you recognize that they send you a quarterly check on the same date, they may have set that up as online bill pay and you're getting it as a check. So technically they've set themselves up as a quarterly donor. So yes, you can go in and say, are there people that do that? And then again, recognize them as part of a monthly donor, but they're not going to come in through your normal system. But yeah, absolutely. So you choose who you recognize, right? So
Wonderful. A lot of people chiming in the chat as well. Thank you for that.
great.
And some suggestions as well for Bloomerang for how we can improve that experience. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to forward those to our product team.
Great.
And we do have a little bit more time. So if I missed any of your questions, I apologize. Please type them in again. It's just so many. I love seeing the engagement with the group. So I apologize if I missed your question. Do we recommend there be a separate monthly donation form for monthly donors
Yes.
on the website?
Yes.
You can do that with Bloomerang. So, and I love that too. That's a popular suggestion for us as well. So our standard form right now, donors have the option to make it recurring, but that's not the default. We're hearing a lot from customers that they would like a dedicated recurring donation form. So definitely.
Yeah, and again, especially if you're doing those two buttons, definitely you want to have the donate now goes to the form that has both options, right? The one time and the monthly, and then the other one goes to the dedicated recurring. Absolutely, yeah.
Yes. And we have a good point here from Liesel in the chat. Even though you might have a dedicated form just for recurring donations, you still want to have that option in your regular donation form because you never know. Someone might go in
Absolutely.
there and make a recurring donation through there. One good example that I've seen from a customer's form is that they have on their regular donation form, so it has the option to put in recurring, and they have a little arrow that points to it that says makes the most impact or helps us the most. So it really draws attention to it.
Yeah. Like a little nudge, or we call it nudge or social proof. So yeah, yeah. Or most
Absolutely.
popular option, things like that.
Exactly.
Great questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, so much for all of your wonderful questions. I always like to say we learn as much from you just
Absolutely.
by all of your wonderful questions. So thank you and keep them coming. We have Bloomerang questions here as well. Does Bloomerang recognize automatically that a donation is recurring, even if it does not come on the same day each month as a check through the mail? We have checks that are auto-sent and checks that are manually written by the donor and are sent around the same time each month. As long as it's entered as a recurring donation payment in Bloomerang, it's going to be included in that report. If it's just entered in as a regular donation, we won't be able to pick that up unless someone mentioned in the chat earlier, you're using a specific appeal that specifies that it's a recurring donation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of ways, but the important thing is that you're tracking that it is a recurring donation.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, the trend right now is that some people will set it up like through online bill pay, and then some banks will send the checks, and others will deposit it. So, so you 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 know, a lot of it totally depends on the bank. So unless you do a search and say, oh, and you keep seeing the same donor over and over again, and you keep seeing that check. And again, this is where if you have somebody else doing the data entry, it's good to say, hey, keep an eye out if you see something like that, and then you can, to your point, they can set it up as a recurring donation. But yeah, we still can't read donors' minds, right? So we'd like to, but we can't. So
Yes. And I'm going to steal the screen from you,
yep,
Erica, here.
yep,
Someone's asking about our report templates.
yep.
So here I'm on my reports list right now. Okay, so if you click new, a lot of people will start here and build a report from scratch, but we have a lot of report templates that you can use. And as I mentioned, all of our report templates, you can build this from scratch anyway, but what I like about them is they will already have some pre-filled filters and columns in there for you that we suggest. So earlier I showed you that you can take a look at the newest donors. So this is looking at first-time donors from the last 90 days. You can modify that just to take a look at your recurring donors, and you can modify the date range as well. And a lot of people were asking earlier about goal tracking and how you're doing toward your progress. We also have a projected cash flow report that you can take a look at to see. It'll compare what you're expecting to get from your recurring donation payments for, let's say, for the fiscal year, and you can track your progress toward that. We also have a report template here for your monthly donors. So this will be taking a look at donors with an active recurring gift schedule or 12 plus gifts in the last 365 days. So if you're not sure, for those people, let's say, who have been getting a lot of checks, but they're not in there as recurring donors, you can also take a look at, well, they may not be in there as recurring donors, but you've gotten 12 checks from them in the last year. That's pretty much they're pretty much a monthly donor, even though they haven't explicitly said that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can check out that report as well. When we send out the slides, we have linked to these report templates, so that will open up in your database and you can customize that for how you would like to track it. Awesome. And thank you so much. We are right at 3:29 right now. I feel like time just flew by.
Yeah, so it's great.
So thank you so much, Erica, and thank you everyone again for being here with us today. Thank you for all of your wonderful questions. If you have additional questions, suggestions, please keep them coming. You can email them to academy@bloomerang.co. For feature suggestions, you can make suggestions directly in our features portal. We love hearing from our customers and how we can help you. So please don't be shy about that.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts for our friends today, Erica?
No, I mean, just like, again, those who've been doing this for a while, keep up the great work. And those who just started, like, keep up the great work. And again, keep sharing those little wins. Like, hey, we got 2 new monthly donors from our email with the button, right? So you just be amazed and kind of look at those reports and see what the value is, and then talk to your major gift people and say, well, guess what? So it's just like really, really important to share that, and it's a drip by drip. It's a slow process. It's an ongoing process, but it's going to be so powerful
Yes.
to give you that sustainable money, that revenue that you need to keep your mission going, right? So yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. So yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to say, not just questions and suggestions. If you just want someone to share your wins with, email us. We're
Yes.
happy to find out as
Yep.
well. We're happy to celebrate that success with you.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for
Welcome.
spending part of your afternoon with us. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time.